Mainland tourists delighted to visit Hong Kong after full border reopening. Police Commissioner says over 6,000 people applied to join the force last year. And the US shoots down yet another high-altitude object. Good evening and welcome to TVB News. It is the first weekend since the full reopening of the mainland border, while some Hong Kong residents decided to visit the mainland via the new Lian Tang Hung Yuen Wai checkpoint. Group tours from the mainland are once again allowed in Hong Kong as Ocean Park received its first point-to-point group tourists. Mimosa Ngai reports.
It was just past 10 a.m., but Ocean Park theme park was already bustling. Among the visitors was this 130-strong mainland tour group, the first point-to-point tourist group Ocean Park received since the pandemic. It costs 358 yuan each, covering return travel and theme park tickets. To welcome the tourists, the theme park prepared umbrellas as gifts for the guests. There was also a welcoming ceremony, with various Ocean Park mascots appearing on stage and greeting the group. This woman said she likes the concept of point-to-point tourism since it is cheaper and more convenient when you can simply follow the tour guide without worrying about how to reach your destination. She added that she plans to join another tour in 2 weeks' time. This man decided to come to Ocean Park because of his granddaughter. He said while his grandson and other family members have been to the theme park a few times before the pandemic, his younger granddaughter has not, so they came today. The tour guide, meanwhile, said many people rushed to sign up for this trip, more than twice the travel agency's original expectation. This encouraged the company to promote more similar tours in the future, including one to Hong Kong Palace Museum next week. While a tour group consisting of 130 people is massive enough, the group's manager said there were supposed to be 170 people, but some encountered visa problems.
A group of tourists arrived at the Lian Tang checkpoint at 8:30 a.m. this morning before coming to Ocean Park. While some people will spend more time in Hong Kong, most people only come here for a day trip. Mimosa Ngai, TVB News.
The public car park at the newly opened Lian Tang Hung Yuen Wai checkpoint was already full this morning. This is the public car park at the Lian Tang Hung Yuen Wai checkpoint with a long queue of cars. Despite having 400 parking spaces, the Transport Department said all spots had already been occupied by 10:30 a.m. Some residents decided to take buses to get to the checkpoint, including the B7 and B8 express routes, connecting Shengshu, Shatin and Hung Yuen Wai. The Transport Department urged residents who plan to drive to the checkpoint tomorrow to reserve a parking space through the public car park website. There weren't many people inside the departure building. One can cross the border smoothly without having to queue. Some residents said they came to Hung Yuen Wai as they wanted to experience the new checkpoint. The Commissioner of Police, Raymond Su, said more than 6,000 people applied to join the force last year, and the manpower situation will improve this year.
A total of 26 probationary inspectors and 89 recruit police constables graduated during today's passing out parade. Chairman of the Independent Police Complaints Council, Priscilla Wong, was the reviewing officer. She reminded the graduates to always remember their aspirations for joining the police force and serving the people. The police force is one of the governmental departments with the highest vacancies over the past few years. A recent Civil Service Bureau document revealed that there were over 6,000 vacancies within the force, mostly in junior officer positions. In papers submitted by the Security Bureau to Let Go earlier, the initial target was to employ over 1,000 officers each year from 2020 to 2022. In the end, less than 40% of the target was met. The Commissioner of Police said up to 6,400 people applied for positions last year, but not a lot of people made it since the threshold is high. Raymond Siu said only 4 in 100 probationary inspector candidates and 11 out of 100 constable candidates were hired. He explained the police force has been looking for those who actually have a heart to serve the people, because once they get in, they could work for more than 30 years. Siu added the police force has stepped up its recruitment drive in recent years. That includes hosting multiple outreach days and putting booths in university campuses. Meanwhile, the police said it has arrested nearly 10,000 people in relation to the anti-extradition bill, including some who are now serving jail sentences. Still, over half have not been charged. Earlier, sources indicate that some of the defendants whose offence are considered relatively minor may have their cases dropped. The police commissioner said the matter, which involves more than 6,000 cases, is in the final stage of investigation, and he hopes to make an announcement within this month.
Chief Executive John Lee was accompanied by Hong Kong business leaders during his recent visit to the Middle East. One of them is Nicholas Aguzin, CEO of the Hong Kong Exchanges, who spoke to oil giant Aramco, which could potentially be listed in Hong Kong. Timothy Lee reports.
With a market capitalization of over $2 trillion, Saudi Arabia's Aramco has been described as the most valuable company in the world. It's been reported that Aramco is a company that could be listed in the city. But should Hong Kong further relax its listing rules to make it more appealing to the oil giant? Nicholas Aguzin, CEO of the Hong Kong Exchanges and Clearing, recently met with Aramco representatives in Saudi Arabia. He told TVB News that while the HKEX wants to help firms to be listed, it also has to protect investors' interests.
That has been a core characteristic of Hong Kong, being a market that is trustworthy, that is, well regulated, and so maintaining that reputation is very important, because it took many years and decades to get it. So we need to protect it.
Aguzin added there is plenty of room for cooperation between Hong Kong and Aramco.
China is a very important market for them. So I do believe that there's always opportunities to continue enhancing relationships.
Aguzin said many businesses in the Middle East want to increase their investment in China, including in the Greater Bay Area. He also said the HKEX may open an office in the Middle East, in addition to other overseas branches like Singapore and New York. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
Overseas, a U.S. military fighter jet shot down an unknown object flying off the remote northern coast of the state of Alaska on Friday. This comes after a suspected Chinese spy balloon was downed by U.S. Air Force fighter jets last Saturday off the coast of South Carolina. Daniel Rao tells us more.
A U.S. military fighter jet shot down an unknown object flying off the remote northern coast of the state of Alaska on Friday, on orders from President Joe Biden. White House National Security Council spokesman John Kirby said the object was downed because it was flying at about 13,000 meters and posed a reasonable threat to the safety of civilian flights, not because of any knowledge that it was engaged in surveillance.
We do not know who owns it, whether it's state-owned or corporate-owned or privately owned. We just don't know. I can tell you it was an object. It was at 40,000 feet, and the predominant concern by the president was a safety of flight issue at that altitude.
Kirby describes the object as roughly the size of a small car, much smaller than the massive suspected Chinese spy balloon downed by Air Force fighter jets last Saturday. The Pentagon said U.S. pilots who flew up to observe it determined it didn't appear to be manned. The object fell into frozen waters, and officials expected they could recover debris faster than from last week's massive balloon. Meanwhile, the Biden administration added 6 Chinese entities connected to Beijing's suspected surveillance balloon program to an export blacklist. The U.S. Commerce Department said the 5 companies and 1 research institute were supporting China's military modernization efforts, specifically the People's Liberation Army's aerospace programs, including airships and balloons. Being added to the entity list makes it hard for targeted companies to obtain U.S. tech exports. China's foreign ministry has maintained the airship shot down off South Carolina was a weather balloon that had blown off course. Beijing has also dismissed U.S. accusations that the balloon was part of a worldwide spying fleet. Daniel Rell, TVB News.
Former U.S. Vice President Mike Pence is the latest top official in former President Donald Trump's administration to be subpoenaed as part of the investigation into efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election. Meanwhile, the FBI searched the former vice president's Indiana home Friday as part of the federal probe into classified records. The search followed the discovery last month of classified documents at his residence. Pence is the latest of former top officials who have been in possession of classified documents after leaving the White House. Others include former President Donald Trump and President Joe Biden. Still to come on tonight's news. Death toll from earthquake exceeds 24,000 in Turkey and Syria. Global tech giants fighting for AI supremacy. And health advice for tomorrow's Hong Kong Marathon. Welcome back. The death toll has risen to more than 24,000 after devastating earthquakes hit Turkey and Syria 5 days ago. The head of the Syrian Civil Defense has requested an apology from the United Nations and called for an investigation into the neglect of humanitarian aid for northwestern Syria following the earthquake. Meanwhile, rescuers continued to pull survivors out of the rubble on Saturday. Tracy Furness has more.
Rescue workers continued their arduous search for survivors Saturday in the Turkish city of Gaziantep, near the center of Monday's massive earthquake. The powerful aftershocks cut a swath of destruction stretching hundreds of kilometers across southeastern Turkey and neighboring Syria. People can survive a week or more under rubble, say experts, but the chances of survival as days move on quickly wane. But miracles continue to happen. Today I met a UN official and asked him to apologize to the Syrian people and asked the US delegation to the Security Council to call on the UN to investigate why there was neglect in northwestern Syria, he said. Meanwhile, a special unit of the Indian Army has been treating the injured in a temporary field hospital in one of the hardest hit regions. The 30-bed hospital set up by the Indian Army is part of a larger humanitarian assistance from India to Turkey during this crisis. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
Hong Kong's rescue team is continuing its relief effort in earthquake-stricken Turkey this morning. The city's firefighters were actively searching for survivors under the rubble. Drones were also used for the task. The team comprises of 59 individuals from the Security Bureau, the fire services, immigration and health departments, as well as 2 rescue dogs. The group met up with the National Rescue Team prior to beginning the rescue effort. U.S. President Joe Biden met with his Brazilian counterpart, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, in the White House on Friday. The two leaders discussed issues such as climate change and safeguarding democracy.
Brazil, the United States stand together. We reject political violence, and we put great value in our democratic institutions. Our shared values and our strong ties between our people make Brazil and the United States, especially here in the big global challenges, they put us on the same page, especially the climate crisis.
Among topics of discussion between the U.S. president and Lula were Russia's invasion of Ukraine, insecurity in Haiti, and migration. Lula's biggest objective is securing ringing support for the legitimacy of his presidency abroad and domestically as unease continues at home. In Britain, the official emblem which will be used for the celebrations to accompany the coronation of King Charles in May was unveiled. The design gives a nod to the monarch's years of environmental campaigning. The emblem features flora from all of the 4 nations of the United Kingdom, the Rose of England, thistle of Scotland, daffodil of Wales and shamrock of Northern Ireland. It also features red, white and blue of the Union flag. The design was inspired by King Charles's love of the planet. The designer said that the emblem speaks to optimism of spring and celebrates the beginning of this new Carolean era for the United Kingdom. Artificial intelligence, or AI, has very much been in the news this week. Google's parent company, Alphabet, saw $100 billion in market value wiped out after a factual error on its AI chatbot tool, Bard. And Google is not the only tech giant heavily invested in AI. NBC News looks at the intense competition over the future of artificial intelligence.
A multi-billion-dollar duel is underway to be the front door of the internet.
The race starts today.
Microsoft announced this week that artificial intelligence will soon allow conversations with its software and search engine Bing. Google raced to announce similar plans. Both tech giants trying to change the internet from a world in which we navigate between web pages to one where interactive discussions with chatbots gives us information.
We only scratched the surface of what's possible with AI.
For a generation, Google has been the verb for finding things online, and it commands more than 90% of the search engine market. But Microsoft, thanks to its partnership with ChatGPT maker OpenAI, is on the attack.
The most profitable large software business is search. So I look at this and say, I just have to earn one user at a time. I've never, ever felt this liberated in terms of opportunity in the days ahead.
It definitely is an arms race. Bing is rocketing up the App Store charts. So much of the world is organized around serving Google and understanding what people are searching for in Google.
Chinese tech giants Baidu and Alibaba also plan to debut new AI technology. But while chatbots look authoritative, AI can make mistakes. Google's own demo for its new chatbot called Bard included a basic factual error, and research has shown that AI trained to mimic human language picks up our biases.
Just having for-profit companies pushing this technology out is a recipe for a multitude of problems.
Critics worry the race to make money from AI technology is moving too fast.
I would love to hear a CEO saying, look, we've got the research, we're capable of making it, but we're pausing, and we urge others to do so as well, instead of just saying, oh, we're going to outrace the other.
But with billions at stake, the race is already on. Jake Ward, NBC News, San Francisco.
Pushing the frontiers of IT has also brought challenges to Hong Kong. The city is facing a resurgence in cybercrime as the Hong Kong Computer Emergency Response Team Coordination Center reported over 8,300 cybersecurity incidents last year. That's the first increase in 4 years. Timothy Lee tells us more.
Advances in information technology have accelerated the digitization process of all industries, but that has also brought about more cyber attacks. A report released by the Hong Kong Computer Emergency Response Team Coordination Center of the Hong Kong Productivity Council showed the number of cybersecurity cases has been on the decline since at least 2018, but saw a rebound of around 660 incidents last year. Among the more than 8,300 cases reported in 2022, around 4,800 incidents involved botnet, essentially a network of computers infected by malware. Phishing incidents amounted for around 2,900 cases, with the majority of them related to e-commerce, online banking, and cryptocurrency. Meanwhile, the center also noted the rising number of users of the popular ChatGPT chatbot developed by artificial intelligence, and said that more regulations need to be put in place for its usage to prevent its exploitation for criminal purposes.
We understand the engine is adding more ethical protections in order to not distributing some maybe not really positive comments or maybe some attacking offensive comments. So we see there are some measures offered by the technology provider. We definitely need to see more laws about the content generated by these engines, whether they are respecting the IP rights or whether the content is legal enough for the public to use.
In response to the growing sophistication of phishing attacks, the Hong Kong Computer Emergency Response Team Coordination Center will organize a phishing prevention campaign. The team plans to achieve this aim by nurturing more cybersecurity talent, as well as raising the cybersecurity awareness of young people. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
Alvin Cheng, a former member of Civic Passion, was today sentenced to 3 years and 8 months behind bars for rioting. That's after he attempted to flee the scene of the PolyU siege during the 2019 anti-government protests via an underground drain. District Court Judge Cheng Lim Chi said today many were using petrol bombs during the protest at PolyU in 2019, and the scale of the protest was not small at all. 7 other defendants in the case were given jail sentences of between 7 and 13 months for picking up protesters who were trying to escape. The Hong Kong Marathon will take place tomorrow, but the humid weather, according to a coach, may affect the athletes' running stamina. The relative humidity forecast on Sunday will be around 80 to 100%. A marathon coach said the humidity is likely to affect runners' endurance because the sweat will stay on their skin, making it difficult for the body to breathe. He advised runners to wipe away that sweat and stop when they feel like they cannot continue in the race. Certain road sections included in tomorrow's race will be blocked starting 11 p.m. today. Special traffic arrangements will also be in place. And that's the news. Thanks for watching.